As I said, I would answer all the comments people dropped on the videos, and I'm going to keep to that promise. As I said, I would answer all the comments people dropped on the videos, and I'm going to keep to that promise. Sometimes it's really easy to reply to comments and just be like, hey, yeah, like this is what I would do, this is what I think, or this is the situation. But sometimes it's much harder to do that, and it's much easier for me to discuss these things. So I'm going to answer one of those questions here and now. Please forgive me if I've pronounced your name wrong, but a question from Mumu Nani has asked this. My mum doesn't allow me to track calories, weigh the food, and barely lets me go to the gym because that's how you become an addict who takes steroids. Or counting calories does not matter, just eat what you want and you'll be in the shape just fine. And this amplifies when I tell her that I do not even have an objective and just want to be as good as I can get. Any tips? She just won't listen to anything I say. Now this is a really complex question without knowing you and your family and the way that you guys do things, but having worked with hundreds of different people from hundreds of different backgrounds, there's usually ways you can come to compromises on these things. So for example, what often we do when we're in debates with people is we want them to understand our point of view, our perspective, and we want to work really hard on making sure that that gets through. This often ends up in arguments because essentially you're shouting at them, they're shouting at you, and you never get to the bottom of actually why they hold these views and what their real concerns are. Like I would say to any of my team, the important part is to try and understand their perspective. And the way that you do that is called listening to understand, not listening to respond. So the first thing you need to do, and this sounds really counterintuitive because for most people they would say they need to listen more, they need to listen to what you want. And I agree with that. But often conversations like this start with what you can do. And so what I would do if I were you is I would sit down and say to Mum, look, I would really like to discuss the gym and my eating and things like that, because I feel like this is something you really don't want me to do and it's something I want to do. So, hey, can we chat about it? Because I'd really love to understand your perspective. I'd really like to understand your point of view. Firstly, that might massively take her back because she might be like, well, okay. And instead of it becoming an argument where she feels threatened and therefore you end up shouting at one another, you have a debate and you are able to reason with one another in a calm and effective manner. So whatever reasons come out, it's important to listen to those and try to see yourself in their shoes, talking to yourself as their daughter. And then you'll start to see yourself in a slightly different light. It's not just they're obstructing me from achieving my goals, they're blocking me from doing this, they're blocking me from doing that. They might be trying to protect you. They might have had a really bad experience in the gym before. They might have had an eating disorder in the past, or know people who've had eating disorders, or have friends who've been in issues with steroids and things like that. So you never really know. And the only way you find those things out is by asking and listening and understanding. Without those things, you don't ever truly get to the bottom of why they hold these prejudices, say, towards the gym or tracking food. And once you do start to have this conversation in a nice calm manner, listen as well as you can, prod the questions. So don't just be like, is this, how do you feel? Oh, that's rubbish. Like, that's a good way to get in an argument. But when they say their reply, say, okay, I understand your perspective, I understand what you mean. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? Let them talk, let them get out really where this is for them so that you can then start to unpack it and then work through it. The last thing I would say is this. Don't expect massive jumps and don't expect people to change their ways overnight. Some people have had these thought processes and ways they think for years. So you aren't just going to not become somebody they care about in 20 minutes. You're just not going to become someone they think, oh yeah, screw it, go on, go and do all the things I wanted to do or didn't want to do or couldn't do and all these things. It's really important to have empathy there, but also be able to express your needs and wants and be able to say, look, I appreciate that this is something you're concerned about. Could we come to a compromise? You don't want me to go into the gym every day? I can appreciate that. How about I start with 3 days a week or 4 days a week? Whatever you think is a good bargaining tool. And you could say, look, with the food side of things, I understand me tracking our evening meals is not working out because you're making those and it adds a lot of stress to you. But how do you feel about me actually just tracking my lunch or my dinner? Just so I have an idea. I'd really like to start hitting my protein targets. Protein's really beneficial for my goals and muscle building and the things that I really want to achieve. And if I can do those things, it's going to massively help me with my goals of becoming fitter, becoming healthier, but also really enjoying the process that I'm in. It doesn't always go as easy as that, of course not, but the whole idea here is that you're able to chat this through, get each other's perspectives, and hopefully start to work towards that end goal, which for you, I'm assuming, is to be able to track, be able to train, but also have your mum on side, right? You don't want to be getting in arguments and have that huge barrier up every time you're trying to train and do these things where the enjoyment of it gets taken down, or you just don't feel like it because you're so burnt out from the debate and the argument and the berating all the time. So hey, I really hope this helps, and guys, as always, if you've got any questions, do send them my way, but for now, it's time for a check-in. Let's go. So we're just about to head off to Pure Gym in Fareham to do a upper body mixed session. Like I said in my first video, the upper body mix is essentially because I've gone from 6 days to 5, and I want to try and get in as much volume as I can to accommodate that missing of one day, or the substitute of one day. It's not as much in terms of the amount of exercises that I'm doing, but it is as much in terms of the volume. So instead of starting the block with 2 sets, I've started it with 3 for a lot of things. And so yeah, today's session is pretty straightforward. Pull-ups, I've got some incline chest press and some flies, some butterfly lateral raises, and then obviously some rows and some arms. So yeah, the Pure Gym here is really very good. You can obviously get a day pass, which is awesome, super simple to do. And if you also have the wide open nature of this gym, it's so open, it's so airy and light. It's such a nice place to work out, it really is. So without further ado, let's go get stuck in. We're going to take you on our normal morning when we are travelling and not at home. So the first things first, we get up around 6:30, head straight to the gym. This gym's really good, as I've said, because obviously you can get a day pass, which is awesome. They're pretty reasonable. I think it's like $6.99. So the first thing I do is get on the treadmill. We're going to go 5 kilometers per hour, 5% increase. I've got my shake there, which has 40 grams of whey isolate, 15 grams of HBCD, which is a carb powder, and 5 grams of creatine. And of course, the fluid there is water. My first exercise, once I've had a bit of a warm up, is going to be pull-ups. Now, the key with pull-ups is to try to lift the chin a little bit and drive the chest in between the hands rather than kind of pull directly up. I had 3 sets of these, awesome. Next up, we've got the incline chest press. Now with this one, I like to keep a kind of pump action going. I don't really like to pause that much, and I feel like when I do keep that pump action going, I get so much better engagement in the chest. The key for this one, I find, is to try and pull my ribcage apart at the bottom to get a really big stretch and squeeze it together nice and tight at the top. Next up, we've got butterfly lateral raises. These are one of my favourite lateral delt exercises. They nail my lateral delts and they really hit the traps and also the other supporting muscles around that really, really well. I always do these in the 15 to 20 rep range just because they are a bit more of a complex movement, and to be honest, I don't see that they would work very well any lower. To finish up, I've got a superset of dual away-facing bicep curls, and then I have the cable tricep extensions as well. This is a gnarly superset and I absolutely love it. Both of these are 15 to 20 and the pump is wicked. So if you do fancy a little arm pump at the end of your session, give this one a crack. It really is very, very good. I had 3 sets of these and these were to failure, concentric failure, really good fun. We're heading off out the gym and we're heading over to Sano's to get some food for the day. Now, the thing with this is obviously normally you would food prep if you were, doing this kind of thing, but we are staying with family at the moment, so we don't need to do the food prep, but it does really help if you can get some additional protein sources in. And so we basically are going to pick those up. So I've got my chicken, I've got my skyr yogurt, both of which I do acknowledge are expensive things and are not things that I would buy like this normally. Although skyr is something I do have daily, but normally I would obviously prep, which makes it so much cheaper. A bit of food volume in there as well, which is always very helpful. And now we're going to go grab some fuel, the good stuff. So we usually have a Costa, maybe once or twice a week, but especially if we're traveling, as you see, it makes me very happy. So as you can see, the reason I'm going for salad is essentially the volume here is really nice, and I find it really satiating because the food itself is got a lot of different textures in it, and generally, as you can see, 25 calories per 100 grams is literally nothing. So that's super helpful to have alongside my protein sources. I've got some lovely apples here. Apples are very satiating, both scientifically speaking and I find as well. They're also very sweet, they're juicy, lovely stuff. So it's a really nice afternoon snack for me. Of course, you've got the chicken as well. This is obviously my number one go-to protein source. It's light in calories compared to the volume of protein, as it doesn't have hardly any carbohydrate whatsoever, and of course has no fat versus other protein sources. That's Katie's. Then of course we've got the Skyr, so this stuff's lethal as well when it comes to protein, and I tend to have that with some Flav drops from my protein. And this does have no calories on it, so it doesn't count. Then we're into my journaling. So I journal every morning without fail, and I like to journal anywhere but where I'm working. So as you can see here, I'm obviously not working here. This is literally a space where I'm going to journal, and then I read for 5 minutes as well, sometimes longer, depends how I'm feeling. Then I'm into my first work block. So I actually chose to work outside because it was so hot, and essentially in this block here, I'm just basically spending the hour answering client messages and so on. Right folks, let's dive into this week's check-in. So this week I'm actually doing it a little bit differently. I'm doing weeks 2 and 3 together. So when I started recording these, I released them just behind time, essentially so I had time to put them together should anything come up. Now, as it happens, life's been really crazy for us at the moment for all the positive reasons. We've been doing a lot of traveling, and generally speaking, work has been very full on as well. So essentially, I put together my week 2 and then I put together my week 3, and I thought actually these are kind of similar weeks. There's nothing that really sticks out as anything I really wanted to show you guys or really kind of dive into. So I thought actually, instead of boring you with 2 weeks that are very similar, and I did contemplate doing that because I thought maybe it would show that this process isn't always getting results. It's not every week we make ground, and it's not every week it's super interesting. In fact, half the time we just need to put our heads down and get to it. But I thought actually no, do you know what, I will keep to it because I'm actually in week 5. I'm just finishing week 5 now, and I know there's some exciting stuff I want to go through for you in week 4 and of course week 5 as well. So what I'm going to be doing is I will do individual ones for that, but I thought actually I'll put these 2 together for you now. So the first thing you're going to notice is that I haven't put up any progress photos. Now, I didn't do any for week 2 and I have not done any for week 3 either, and that's actually for a very good reason. If you follow me on Instagram, you might also see that I post a lot of my training videos and things like that, and in previous months or in previous videos you'll see me wear a vest a lot of the time, and the truth is I enjoy wearing a vest. I feel good in a vest, you know, I've got good movement, and generally speaking it's just more comfortable, especially in the hotter months. However, with this process, I know myself incredibly well, and I also know that I can become very physique focused rather than process focused, and I know that of myself because the minute I start to see physique changes, I almost feel more comfortable. I'm like, hey, I look great, like this is fine, I'll leave it here. But that's not the goal here. The goal is to push on, the goal is to get to that point, and essentially all it is my brain going, hey, why are you doing this, you know, etc, etc. We're hungry, let's eat something. But that's not the idea, and I know that I don't want to feel that level of comfortable because I do want to progress and I do want to make it to my end process. The other thing is that I do tend to become a lot more mirror focused, so I know that I will be looking in mirrors more frequently. I'll look in car windows, and it's probably something we all do if we're actually honest, but it's something I don't like doing. I don't like that level of consciousness. I don't think it's very helpful, and I don't believe that it's all that healthy, for me at least. So I actually prefer to wrap up. Now, for me, I understand how progress photos work and I understand the value that they have, but I also understand that in 2 weeks things aren't really massively going to change. Now, if you tuned in last week, you may have seen a rather explicit change, but I kind of knew that was going to be coming because I hadn't trained for a long period of time. I'd had some time out with COVID and with holidays, so quite frankly, I knew there was going to be a big jump between 0 week and week 2. So that was to be expected, but essentially I have ceased progress photos for now, because to be honest, when I normally coach myself, I usually do them every 4 to 6 weeks, purely on the basis that I know that there's not going to be too much to talk about. As we get further along, so towards like week 16, 17, 18, that's where some more acute changes might come in. That's where I'm more likely to actually show them on a weekly basis. So no progress photos this week, and as I've said as well, a little nod to anyone who watches me on Instagram, who thinks, oh, why is he training in a big ass t-shirt this time of year? It purely is for that reason, knowing myself, making the changes that I know will help me, not just now, but also in the long run as well. Right, let's dive into this. So the 2 weeks I've just had have been quite similar in both their levels of disruption. So we've not been staying at home the whole time. We have been away for kind of 3 to 4 days per week, which makes the consistency of the week much more challenging, and you just need to put a lot more effort in to make this work. So as you'll have already seen from my vlog, essentially what we do is we all just get gym passes, and then of course we'll head to Sano's and grab some food if we need to do that, and if we're looking to be more accurate with the tracking side of things and such like. So was it a normal week? Yes, in terms of work. So work stayed the same. I still work whether I'm here or at home. That's all fine. Gym wise, did that stay the same? No, it didn't. I actually didn't do one of my sessions in week 2, and that's for a very good reason. So for those of you who know me very well, you know that I have a past life of rugby. I absolutely adored it. It was a career path for me. It was a really passionate and full part of my life, and unfortunately I had to retire from playing rugby due to a number of knee injuries. In the last 4 to 6 weeks I've started playing again. It's been really, really nice. It's been something I thoroughly enjoy, and it all started because my partner made me go to one with her dad last October, I think it was, just to trial it, and it was amazing. It was honestly so good, and it was so nice to be able to play again. And for any of you who kind of understand where I'm coming from, you'll know exactly what I mean, but it really was surreal. So I've been playing touch rugby every Monday. I include that, as I mentioned, as part of my kind of just general NEAT work. Obviously it's not NEAT, but I wasn't counting it as cardio. And essentially I joined a tournament. So we went for a tournament, which means I didn't just train once that week. I actually ended up training twice, and I did a full day tournament. And I looked at my training week and I said to myself, am I going to be able to facilitate this and all of this work alongside it? No. No way. I'm really sore after I've run around for an hour and a half, so I actually took the option to not do my second leg day. I made that choice. It wasn't like I just didn't do it. I consciously made the choice not to do it so that I would have the legs, the recovery, and the ability to enjoy the rugby to the maximum, and obviously get the most out of that, but also not be completely crippled for the rest of the week, which I wanted to avoid if possible. So in terms of a weekly update then, so I've got weeks 1 and 2 here. Now, as you can see, hardly any weight loss at all took place across this week. Now, the interesting part in this, I had some really low weigh-ins in week 2, but because of all the running and all the rugby that I was doing, not to mention the heat, I also believe that a huge amount of that will have been water just held, because I felt a lot leaner, I looked a lot leaner, and just generally, stuck to the processes I needed to lose weight, but I didn't. And I've actually made a video on the 10 reasons why we don't always see the scales move, and I'll be uploading that one soon, so do check that one out. But essentially, if I was following that 1%, I would have been at 179.36. If I was following 0.5%, I'd have been at 181.17. So this is obviously slightly skewed because, of course, I had that huge drop off in week 1, which I think was over two pounds. I think it was like 2.5 pounds. So actually, level that out with this week, it's about 1.5 to 1.25 pounds of loss per week on average, which of course is where we want to be. That's perfect. What we also have to consider here is the amount of times I weighed in. So I only weighed in 5 times out of the 7, so the average wasn't clean as such, but it was good enough. It was good enough for me. I say to everyone, 4 to 7 times a week is optimum, and just because I didn't weigh in twice and I normally would, I still see that as a good reason to hold the average and not just bin off the whole week and say, oh, I just didn't weigh in enough, because 5 times is by far enough to get a clean average. So as you can see, weight is still coming down, just a little bit slower than that first week where it kind of shot through the floor. So then if we add week 3 to that, so then we had another nice drop off in week 3 of just over a pound, so 1.4 pounds in week 3, and actually that came quite soon. So Monday I think I had a ridiculously low weigh and I actually weighed in at like 176, which was just a huge flush of water, I think, and I was very, very depleted and I was very, very fatigued, which we'll talk about shortly. So that clocked up a weekly loss of 1.4 pounds. I weighed in 7 times, which brings my total loss then to 3.65 pounds across the 3 weeks. So traveling at about 1.2 pounds a week at the moment, which is perfect, well on plan for what we discussed at the very start. So then, as you can see, the line has got moving again. We are progressing nicely through the channel of the 180 and making our way to 170s. Hopefully that will be on the horizon. Now the macros, what I've done is I've taken the macros from the week that I did the most complete. I've put Monday to Thursday here as a reference point because on one of the weeks I did only do Monday to Thursday of full tracking, and that was the week I was playing all the rugby, but these are the macros from the week that I did the full set. As we did last week, we'll run through those. Calories 2093, protein 195, 235 for carbs, 35 for fats, and obviously 24 for fibre. If you remember back from last week, I talked about how some of my fibre wasn't being accounted for, so I addressed that, and here we are at 24. I've not changed any of the food I've eaten at all. That is just me addressing the MyFitnessPal error. In the interest of this, I think it's worth mentioning that I have actually changed my target. So in week 3, I decided that actually it was time to just set the barrier a little lower, because to be honest, 2,200 I would have been fine on. 2,100 I was super satiated on considering. So I decided to actually set the bracket at 1950 to 2050. All right, so I've really squeezed that bracket down now, just to make sure that we're still traveling. My hunger has, as we're going to see in a moment, picked up, so the response has been very good from that point on. This was the last week. Week 3 was the last week I did the 2000 to 2000 range. So steps and sessions, obviously target sessions was 5. I did 5 in the second week, so week 3, and I did 4 in the week 2, which was obviously the week that I was playing the rugby. The daily step goal was 9 to 11k, and I smashed out 14,700. So in terms of feedback, then we'll do week 2 first, and then we're going to go into week 3. So sleep, doing fine. It was quite hot, but we managed that really well. Now, energy did take a big hit because of all the rugby and all the running. I did feel quite a bit lower in terms of my exertions and energy, which obviously had a knock-on effect to hunger. I was far hungrier that week. Stress is still very low, absolutely fine. Work is as it is, and my life is pretty much as it is as well. So that's absolutely great. And then, of course, fatigue much, much higher as well. Mostly because, of course, the rugby was just taking it out on me. Going into week 3 then, as you can see, sleep, energy, hunger, now the heat really did start to get to us this week, combined with the recovery factor, I believe, from that rugby week, and it just started to affect me a little bit. So sleep was a little bit down, energy was recovering, hunger was still there, stress still fine, but the fatigue still there as well. So generally starting to feel this a little bit, and I think, had I not have been doing the rugby the week before, would I have felt it so much? Probably not, is the honest truth, but I did do a lot of rugby and I did do a lot of sprinting and running, so this is just one of the one of the byproducts of that. Then obviously moving on, we got tracking accuracy, so I put 40% in the in for week 2, and that's because I only tracked till Thursday, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday I didn't track. I tracked exceptionally well, but you have to look at that on the whole grand scheme of things, and as I couldn't put 50%, I went with 40 because the weekend was very much up in the air. Digestion's been fine, mood was great, I was absolutely over the moon to be playing rugby again. It just a dream come true for me, and I was just, the whole week was just amazing, so super happy with that. And training, really good considering the exertion I had that week as well. Then we go into week 3, and that's obviously where the tracking accuracy went straight back up to 80. 100 is where, for me, I will really turn it up, and we're not there just yet, so I'll let you know when that goes to 100. So unlike most people where they get hunger and hunger and hunger and tracking becomes worse and worse and worse, I tend to turn mine up a notch because, to be honest, that's where we're going to make the most progress later on. Digestion, interesting one. Digestion has started to take a little bit of a hit. Not in terms of anything bad, no bloating, things like that, just generally less food going in, less stuff coming out. quite a normal way to see it. And, you know, like I say to a lot of my clients when they're struggling with these kinds of things, you know, if you imagine a tunnel, in rush hour you've got loads of cars going in, or if you're gaining you've got lots of food going in, you're going to have lots of cars coming back out. But if you're darting and generally there's less food going in, less food volume going in, there's going to be less coming out as well. So it's, generally speaking, nothing to be concerned about. Mood is slightly down, and I think that's due to the energy, just recovery and the sleep and things like that as well, and training back to 100%, which is, you know, fantastic, as we can see. So when you put them side by side, you know, tracking accuracy was great, digestion has started to lower a little bit, mood was down, but that was due to sleep and fatigue, and then we've also got training looking wicked as well. Wicked stuff. So that wraps up weeks 2 and week 3. It's been fantastic so far. Week 4 was wicked, and I cannot wait to show you what happens in week 4. And obviously we're going to be gearing up for week 5. So if you're a member of Team JLX or you follow me, you will know that week 5 is where all the fun happens before we deload in week 6. Things are getting juicy, things are getting good, and we're really enjoying the process. So guys, as always, if you would like and subscribe, really appreciate it. If you want to drop us a comment, ask us any questions, please do. And of course, if there's anything we can do to help, please let me know. Guys, if you're interested in coaching, please check out the link in, obviously I'll put it in the comments there. If you just want to jump on a call because you're not sure about what we offer and how we do things, then please do. We're more than open with doing that, and actually the conversations we have are usually very cool, and, you know, offers an opportunity for us to get to know you, you get to know us, and it's all good stuff there. Guys, thanks ever so much for watching. As always, take good care, much love, bye bye.